Radpack here, and if you've been following my social media and my YouTube channel, you'll know that I'm a big advocate for horror DVD collecting and how I believe that there might be a resurgence in the future for some of these lost horror editions that were put out on DVD that we may never see again. Now, I did a full video talking all about that with my buddy Christian over at Planet CHH, and the feedback we've gotten about that video has been huge, so thank you guys for checking that one out. And if you haven't checked it out, the link will be in the description. Alright, now during that video, I showcased a lot of old DVD editions that are just kind of anomalies that maybe not everybody has seen or remembered, or maybe even brought back memories for a lot of people. Well, talking to Christian about it, I showed him a bunch of things that I had that he didn't know existed, and one of them was that remastered Night of the Living Dead DVD that Anchor Bay put out. After I kind of told him the story about that, he bought it and did a full review and retrospective on it, and it got a lot of great feedback as well. Now, with that being said, I wanted to talk about another horror DVD from the early 2000s that was kind of an anomaly as well that we may never see again. Now, it's not that this movie is great, this movie is actually terrible, but the big story on this was how it kind of tricked the fans, how it purposely came out and kind of tricked some of the fans that weren't really in the know at that time. Now let's bring it back to 2005. 2005 was a huge year for me in collecting horror DVDs. I can remember every Tuesday going out, getting some of the new releases, and scrolling through some of my local shops and trying to stock up on a lot of horror stuff that I've never seen. So as I'm walking around that aisle and looking at different horror movies that maybe I haven't come across, I did come across one that really caught my eye. Now, you gotta remember at that time, things like remakes and sequels were coming out. Things like Texas Chainsaw Remake, Dawn of the Dead remake were out about that time. So when I saw this sitting on the shelf and put out by a company, Anchor Bay, who I absolutely loved and trusted when it came to finding new horror gems, I was super intrigued. Now, the movie here in question is 2005's Day of the Dead 2 Contagium. Now, if you take a look at this cover, very reminiscent of Day of the Dead as far as the logo, the artwork, and when it says 2 Contagion, every day has a beginning. Man, when I saw this sitting on the shelf, I was like, what is this and why have I never heard of it? Now, when you take a look at the back, like I said, it's got the little Anchor Bay logo, which usually for me was a win. So I'm like, Anchor Bay wouldn't lie to me. They would do me right. What is this sequel to Day of the Dead, and why is there a sequel to Day of the Dead? So I turn this thing around. It says part prequel, part sequel, and a total gut-ripping, gore-spewing homage to the original. Now, when you flip this thing over here, you take a look at the back. Like I said, it's got that big quote up top that makes this really intriguing. Also, when it comes to special features, it's got the making of Day of the Dead 2. I mean, this is something in here that I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. I need to check this out. But in the bottom corner, not only do you see the Anchor Bay logo, but you see this other logo here as well. And that logo is Taurus Entertainment Company. Now, we'll get back to that in a second, but again, Dawn of the Dead 2 Contagion was something that really caught my eye. At the time, I was very young. I was really starting to get hardcore into collecting horror movies, and when I saw this movie, I knew I needed to add it to my Dead collection.
Now, George A. Romero takes us out of the night, beyond the dawn, and into the darkest day of horror the world has ever known. Day of the Dead.
Now, I remember getting home and putting this thing in, being like, what is this, part prequel, part sequel? This is gonna be super interesting, and then the movie started. Now, man, this has to be one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It starts off kind of a prequel to Day of the Dead, and then it shoots us 37 years later to the present, and it gets even worse from there. The acting was bad, the gore was bad, they had zombies that talked shit to people before they kill them.
You smell like shit!
Now again, this is a very low budget, low quality movie, and after this thing was released, it got nothing but hate. And a lot of people were in the same boat as me that were kind of tricked into getting this movie. Not only was it called Day of the Dead 2, but like I said, the logo, everything made sense. Everything looked like this was going to be a legit sequel to the Dead series. So upon further research, we found out that this thing actually was made just as a cash grab. It was able to get that Day of the Dead name. Like, as you've seen now, there's been more Day of the Dead movies that have come out since then, but this one having the exact same logo and calling itself a prequel and a sequel to the original was almost like a bait and switch. Now, this movie was actually kept very quiet in 2004 when it was filmed, so when it was released on DVD from Anchor Bay Entertainment, it was really the first anybody ever heard about it. Now, around the time of release, it did do a couple screenings, which again got really poor reviews. And when you look at the zombie movie encyclopedia, it actually gave it 0 out of 5 stars, saying that this thing was false advertising and it was actually created solely to generate revenue from uninformed fans. Now again, you could have called me naive and not knowing that back in 2005 when I saw this thing for the first time, but the internet was not like it is now, and we weren't seeing a lot of these remakes and sequels around that time either to really know that this thing could have been absolute dog shit. So like I said before, this Tourist Entertainment Group logo that's on here, why is it so important now after all these years when it comes to this edition, is because they were also the ones responsible for Creepshow 3. Now, as you can see, their game plan was to really just cash in on some of these crappy movies just on name value. Now, let me know, do you remember this Day of the Dead 2 Contagium on DVD? Now, this thing will probably never see the light of day again, and it shouldn't. But when it comes to collecting physical media, this is something that's very unique to the genre. Now, gang, let me know, did you fall for this as well? Do you remember that when this thing came out? Am I the only one that fell for this false advertising, for this trick? And like I said, when it comes to DVD and horror movies, there are going to be some editions that, good or bad, might be an anomaly for us horror collectors to want to try to track down. Let me know if you like this talk and talking about some of these very obscure, good or bad additions that we may never see again on physical media, because I have so much random stuff here. I would love to do more horror history and physical media. Now, gang, thank you for checking this out. This is Garrett, Born to be Rad, and like always, stay rad.